everyone, and welcome to a new and improved time of Leadership Untitled. Today, we are going to, on episode 3, talk about cryptocurrency. As you can see, if you're watching me live here on LinkedIn from the title, we're going to be talking about cryptocurrency for leaders and making a business case for why you should start thinking about it. Or if you've been thinking about it but haven't truly taken action, why you need to continue doing that research and begin taking action. I am excited about today. This is a topic that I'm passionate about. So I look forward to sharing more about the business case, about why you need to begin thinking about it, or even continuing to think about it and getting ready to take action. So let's get started. My name is Karen Turner. I am a senior executive as well in operations, as well as a leadership excellence and executive coach. This is Leadership Untitled. And on this podcast, we talk about how to refine our leadership skills, gain momentum in our careers, and navigate those pesky corporate politic potholes. Here we are focused on learning about the joy, about living the fullness of being our best, and how that joy and living fully and embracing who we are affects all areas of our life. Let's get started in today's topic. Thank you for being here. I've got my notes here, so let me flip my notebook. Before we get started, I want to go back into time. Well, actually, it's not before we get started. It's truly all part of the story, but I would love to go back into time. I'm going to talk about Generation X before we dive in. And Generation X, my generation, is the smallest generation that there is. And I'm going to look up the, because these are things that I think about when I'm on live. And that's okay, because we are here having a conversation. So Generation X, late 70s to early 80s. So that is the generation that I'm going to be talking about. And it's key to this conversation because I know so many of you who are here are in that generation. Again, it's the smallest generation group. And it has another unique characteristic outside of being the smallest generation group that I think makes this conversation a little bit more interesting, is that as a group, this is my opinion, and I've talked to other colleagues about it as well, we have never truly been established in a technology. If we think about the baby boomers, the generations that were before the generation before us, they were established in their technology and how they did life. There were a lot of years in terms of, there were some changes, but not significant changes, specifically in technology, that Generation X saw. After Generation X, of course, we have millennials, Gen Y, Gen Z. And while they have seen some technology shifts, they have not been quite as significant as the ones seen in Generation X. So as a proud member of Generation X, I remember completing my high school projects, the first part of high school, on a typewriter, a literal typewriter that I had, and then moving to a computer. And that was actually a hard shift. I remember it was a hard shift. I was like, well, I don't want to learn anything new. I just want to do what I have to do for school and just move on with my life. But buying a computer, my parents buying a computer, learning it, being in keyboarding class, I learned how to type on a typewriter and then had to later learn how to type on a computer. Thankfully, very close and transferable skill. But that was the first big shift that I can remember. The next big shift that I can remember after the computer, of course, is the internet. And who amongst us in Generation X and, some of our older millennials and younger baby boomers can remember the of the internet signing on when it first began gained was adopted popularly. There's the word I'm looking for, where you could not make a phone call when your internet was plugged in. So I remember in the wee hours of the night being on the internet because you didn't want to disrupt and prevent phone calls from coming in because you had to unplug. At least that's the way it was in my family. Or if I had a school assignment to do, I it was a big coordination with the family. Okay, I'm going to be online. I'm going to be doing some research for about 30 minutes, and we talk about it online for those 30 minutes, and then pop off, make sure the phone was back on, check messages, call people back. It was a big deal. However, I personally loved the internet because I didn't have to go to the library to do research. My parents didn't have to purchase the latest of encyclopedias. That's how you used to do research, was getting the encyclopedias, getting reference books and the most recent versions of reference books. And I'm so thankful to my parents for the resources that they provided in the house. But there were some things that still just you needed to go to the library to do research. And since you had a class and most of your class is focused on the same topic or the same subject, you then had to be concerned about whether or not your resources would be available if someone else had signed them in. Hopefully, this message is getting to someone and I'm not just here by myself, and that you are feeling and remembering what it was like during these big technological shifts. After that, I have a very clear memory, or during that time, I have a very clear memory of my father's car phone, a literal phone in the car that was super clunky, really big, but the coolest thing ever. My father was a sales manager, sales leader for a company, and he traveled regionally in our area, but also did a lot of overseas and international travel. But I would think it was the coolest thing if something happened at school to be able to call my dad and say, "Well, he has a car phone." And it was so cool. I still remember it was a beige color. Yeah, it was a beige color phone. It was ginormous though. And of course, there were different parameters that you needed to make it work. I don't know all of the details. My father would be able to tell you more of that, but it was just that's how we communicated. Then, of course, there was the very cool satellite navigation systems that you had to purchase a device to put in your car, purchase the maps, keep them updated. All of these different shifts that we have now seen coming in this smartphone, right? Of course, the next evolution was the flip phone. I loved my BlackBerry. Well, before the BlackBerry was the flip phone, then the BlackBerry, and I stuck with the BlackBerry for a very, very, very long time. An older version of the BlackBerry, and then making the official move to a smartphone, which now does everything, right? We don't even own a landline anymore. We just have our cell phones, which when you have children proves to be a little bit of my husband and I are having that conversation now about, do we need a landline until they get cell phones? But that's a separate conversation. There have just been a lot of technological shifts during Generation X that has, I believe, set us to have that mindset of change and to understand. And even now, as we talk about cryptocurrency, many of the leaders who are charging forward, taking those chances, being bold, are part of Generation X, or again, the older millennials and perhaps some of the younger baby boomers. But as a generation, what I have seen is that because technology was not established for us, we are poised from a mindset perspective to be leaders here in this space. We have had to shift and learn. We have not had a choice. My parents, they're on social media, but they don't have to be on social media. They can They have participated in the changes, but it hasn't been necessary to their existence in the same way that I believe it has been necessary to the existence of Generation X, where it's part of my school. So I have to learn it. It's how my job is. So now I have to learn it. And so that is what I believe makes us and Generation X uniquely equipped to be able to lead this charge and this movement. Last one I have to share is cash to check. There are still places that accept checks, which is incredible to me because it is just built on so much trust that this paper that I'm giving you with my signature that you will cash at some point in the future will allow you to earn the monetary value of the item that we exchanged. It's just mind blowing that that's how the bulk of businesses worked, cash or check. And then, of course, we know that there was the credit card. And who can remember giving your credit card and then having the salesperson place it in that machine that went and did the triplicate carbon copies? You signed one went to the bank, one you got one went to the bank, and one the store kept for their records. That's how we accepted credit cards. And can you believe now, of course, we can swipe anything. We have our debit cards. There's Apple Pay, there's Google Pay. Technology is moving forward. And it's important for us as leaders to to recognize these shifts so that we can stay ahead of them. As I said, part of my goal with this podcast is to help you gain momentum in your careers. And one of the best ways to gain momentum in your careers is to be alert of trends and shifts. There's a lot of people who are pillaring cryptocurrency, and that has been one of the reasons that I have been quiet about, from a public perspective, quiet about my advocacy and my belief in cryptocurrency. And it goes for me well beyond the personal finance, the business finance, and moves into a social area of access. But that is another topic that I'll talk about probably on different platforms. But for here, I have hesitated because it has been pilloried as well. And then, it's been banned. Discussion of Bitcoin, cryptocurrency was banned at one point. You had to be really careful how you talked about it. And so I took a big step back and just did my research. Our family is involved in cryptocurrency, but now I'm ready to talk about it because we are, of course, at that point where we are hearing more and more discussion. So here's the thing. As I've shared with you this brief technology history, why Generation X is uniquely poised to take and lead this momentum, and why you need to begin to consider cryptocurrency, because we have seen these shifts and we see the historical patterns that happen no matter what has been said about cryptocurrency. Here's where we are today. There are crypto ATM machines. There are stores that you can go into and buy cryptocurrency. Visa has a cryptocurrency credit card. You can Venmo, places like Venmo, and I think it's Lolly, allow you to get cash back or crypto back. Their cashback program is either the fiat or crypto. It is beginning to find itself in society, no matter what has been said, no matter how much it has been tried to be debunked. It has not gone anywhere. And in fact, it has crept more and more into our existence. So it's here to stay. If you are someone who has been pushing it off, minimizing its importance, minimizing its significance, I encourage you to do your research. I have been doing my research. I have been reading about it. I have seen the trends. I have listened to experts who know a lot more than I know. The trends are there, and you can't bury your head as a leader anymore about this important shift that is happening in finances. There are very few times in the world, in the history of the earth, that there have been significant changes in the way that we talk about money, cash, wealth, finances. This is one of them. And you cannot get caught by being behind. You need to be doing your research. And so I ask you, have you been doing your research? Have you been following or falling for the minimizing tactics that we are seeing across from some larger industries? You have to buck that trend and at least begin doing your research. And why does that matter? It matters to you because, quite simply, from a financial perspective, it's another way to do business. It is another way to have a monetary exchange, a monetary exchange for the goods that you sell. And as if you are waiting until it's already popularly adopted, it is too late. That will be too late. If you are a business owner, if you are a leader within an organization, the time is now to begin doing your research and to begin taking action. Excuse me for a moment. The time is now to begin taking action. And that is important because when you are a leader in an industry, when you are a leader in taking initiatives, in taking on new projects, you get to also help frame how how it becomes mainstream. And when you are helping to frame it, that is when you can ensure that you have equal access, or that you are able to, thank you. I have you to the rescue. Thank you. Ugh. All right. Just a moment. The fun of going live. I say it every single time because it is so true. And anybody who is ever afraid to go live, you can use these as an example that it is okay. Things happen and we just keep going and we keep moving on. And also, I will not be editing this part out of the podcast when it goes live as well, because that is just what is involved. Let's move back. When you are taking the lead, you can frame how it goes into mainstream. And that's important. I trust that everyone here is someone who is filled with integrity, has a lot of character. And when we have people who are service-minded, integrity-focused, and creating the framework, we can ensure that how something like cryptocurrency is adopted into the mainstream is done in a way that allows fair access. And here on Leadership Untitled, you know that is my passion. I'm here to talk about access, equality, inclusion, and diversity. And that is so key as we talk about bringing on cryptocurrency and creating more access for more people to be able to participate, not just in exchange of goods, not just in e-commerce, but also in wealth. As a business owner, it's your opportunity to step forward. It's your opportunity to begin the conversation and take ownership. Whether you're a business owner or an entrepreneur, whether you are an organizational leader, it's your opportunity to take that step and again, begin the conversation. And whether you are in B2B, B2C, SaaS, your clients will begin to ask you. And if your clients have asked you, it is too late, because that's when you're going to jump to whatever, not necessarily taking time to think through and have a thoughtful plan for how you're going to accept cryptocurrency, how you're going to use it to help leverage and grow and spread your mission and your vision. What's one way to get involved? And before I jump into that, if you're waiting for a definition on cryptocurrency or a definition on what we're talking about, that's not going to be this episode, because then we would be here for 3 or 4 hours, but that conversation will happen I am hosting a webinar in the next week where I'm going to dive more into details. We'll talk about the definition of cryptocurrency, when it came, what's going on. We will look at the trends, we'll look at the graphs, we'll talk about inflation. We will have a really great time diving into the details. So if you are interested, I would love for you to reach out to me here on LinkedIn. For those of you who are watching live or watching the replay, hello. If you are watching on any of the other podcast distribution or listening to any of this podcast on any of the distribution stations, then please reach out to me also on LinkedIn, or you can message me on Instagram as well. Both of those places you can find me at Karen V. Turner or Karen Turner, and you will see my face and pop up, and you can message me there. So again, today we're talking about the business case. One way that you can get involved, because your clients are probably not asking right now, so this is a really great time for you to experiment and think about, again, that strategy. But one of the best ways that I can think of are NFTs, non-fungible tokens. If for some reason you have not heard of an NFT or a non-fungible token, you really need to dive into and just do a search and figure out what's going on. They have been at the forefront of the news recently. They are it is a unique piece of the blockchain that belongs to whoever owns that non-fungible token, that token. So unlike cash, which can be a dollar is a dollar, even Bitcoin is a Bitcoin. When you have a non-fungible token, it is a unique piece of art. It can be music. It can even be service, which is where I really want to focus into. But it is non-exchangeable for something else because it is unique. And if you haven't heard of them, let's see, Martha Stewart. That's probably one of the most recent stars who I have seen. And when I saw that Martha Stewart was in NFTs, I'm like, okay, I need to talk about it. I need to make sure everyone is aware, because Martha Stewart is not in the Generation X. She's a baby boomer, and she's taking advantage and recognizing the power of cryptocurrency and NFTs to provide service. So generally, what you have probably seen, if you are at all familiar with it, is art. There's been a lot around art, which is incredible, both illustrated art and art as in music. So in the creative field. One of the areas that is largely untapped is NFTs as utilities, or NFTs providing a service. And that is the area as business owners that we truly need to focus on. For those of you who are familiar with Gary Vaynerchuk, Gary V, he recently launched a utility NFT. Not recently, but he launched this year a utility NFT. And that's how they're referred to when it's kind of like the miscellaneous category of NFTs, but it is focused on service. And this is an incredible way for you to recognize your most loyal customers, your most loyal clients, by giving them a way to get into an inner circle. Consider a service NFT like a loyalty program. So for example, I'll just use Gary Vaynerchuk as his example. So you do need to have some representation to present your NFTs. So that could be art, it could be music, it could be a video. But then there is more behind that piece of art, that piece of music, or that video. That includes things like free access to conferences. That includes coaching services. That includes access to private membership groups. There are so many different ways I've seen. So Martha Stewart's NFT is creating content around holidays. So she released an NFT or NFTs around Halloween that included content from a lifestyle perspective, recipe perspective for the holidays. And so you purchased it, but when you purchased it, you received all of this additional content. It wasn't just the art, wasn't just the video or just the music. There's more utility around it. And if you are, again, business owner, entrepreneur, if you are a leader within your organization, I'm sure you can think of the services that you provide and how you can package them and add in bonuses and surprises to delight your customer so that they will want to purchase, learn about, and purchase these NFTs. It's an incredible way, again, to recognize your most loyal clients, your most loyal customers. They will pay you for this service, for this bundle of service, and over a year, 2 years, 3 years, even, you make a commitment to them to be able to provide additional services. I've seen tax companies offering it. So they offer, if you purchase this NFT, as part of the package, you get a certain percentage of discount off of their services for a number of months or years. There are so many different applications from a utility service perspective that this is a great way to enter into the cryptocurrency world and provide education to your clients. Because part of what the adoption process is for moving cryptocurrency to mainstream is helping the public, helping our clients and our customers understand the importance of crypto, help them recognize that it's not going anywhere, and teach them how to use it. So, does anyone notice that that's exactly what happened today in this podcast? Why do we need to know about cryptocurrency? Recognize some of the trends to let us know that it's not going away, then my recommendation is to consider using NFTs, non-fungible tokens, as a way to enter into that space and help to teach our clients, our customers, those in our sphere, our tribe, how to use it and how to engage with it in a way that is probably less intimidating than considering investing in a full investment plan into a Bitcoin or into Ethereum. So again, today, not the business case not a deep dive explanation into what crypto is, what are the different cryptocurrencies, and what and how to use NFTs, but instead sharing with you why you need to consider and start doing your research, if you haven't, into cryptocurrency, recognizing the trends on your own, and then seeing how you can take that step forward, a small step forward. Because again, when you have an opportunity to frame the conversation, that allows you to have power in terms of how you think about the strategy and even how you can become an industry leader, not just within your specific industry, but an industry leader in cryptocurrency. There are so few times that we have an opportunity to be at the start. And yes, cryptocurrency has been around for a long time, but we are now gaining the cryptocurrency world is gaining momentum. We're hearing more and more about it. So while it's not the beginning, it's the beginning before it becomes popularly accepted and adopted. And it is an incredible time to join in the conversation and make sure that your voice is heard and make sure that the groups that you represent are heard as well and represented. And that is so key as we move forward. So again, if you are interested in learning more into that deep dive, I will be hosting a webinar next week. Reach out to me on LinkedIn or Instagram by my name, Karen Turner. Message me and I will be sure to send you the details. I will also be sharing the details publicly, so don't worry, you won't miss it. You won't have an opportunity to miss it. But I'm excited to have an interactive conversation, answering your questions to the best of my abilities. I am doing the research, and as I'm doing the research, I am passionate about sharing with you. I'll also share the history of our family's personal history in cryptocurrency and share with you how I've been was blogging on the blockchain, and talking about building communities and learning about building communities on the blockchain for years now. And it's exciting. I'm really looking forward to sharing this with you. So I hope that you'll consider joining this webinar. And I hope that you have, at least in this brief conversation, I have planted that kernel of interest and curiosity. I mean, Martha Stewart has NFT. She's in cryptocurrency. So I'm hoping that you recognize that now is the time, and that before that webinar, you do at least one research, you have at least one conversation. And as always, if you have found this podcast helpful, if you are just like, wow, I just learned something new and I want someone else to learn what I've learned, or I want to be able to have this conversation with someone else, share this video, share it easily here on LinkedIn, share the podcast link wherever you're listening to it, and tag me. I would love to see you on social media sharing this message. I thank you so much for joining me here today. I will be back next week, Wednesday at 9 o'clock Eastern Time for another conversation. Thank you for joining episode 3 of Leadership Entitled. Have a great day.